This report is forecasting ancillary revenue from a broadband-enabled scenario. So what does this actually mean? No surprise, there is a very large opportunity out there. It's a multi-billion-dollar opportunity, both for airlines potentially, but very importantly to stress, for content partners. The punchline is this: by 2035, we're estimating that the ancillary revenue generated to be around $30 billion for airlines globally. Half of that is fairly low-hanging fruit. Half of it, we believe, will come from access revenue from the airlines for onboard connectivity. And the other $15 billion we think will come from enabled categories from basically ancillary revenue. The total market size for this opportunity is around $130 billion, 30 of which accrues to the airlines. When you're providing content, both digital, physical, onboard, what you're really doing is very similar to some of the current e-commerce and other models today. As an airline, you might be reselling, and in reselling something, you will gain a margin, you will keep something, but there's also a cost of sale. So the revenue we believe will be generated to all the content partners is the total market size, of which the airline retains some because it's not the creator of everything. And if you generate enough e-commerce, which I'll come to in a minute, then what you're in effect doing is enticing the consumer to spend through you as a retailer or e-tailer, whichever way you want to look at it, and you're also providing some of those goods and services to passengers. So why now? Interestingly enough, airlines have been offering some kind of onboard connectivity. It's been out there for a while, but it has not fully been capitalized. 67% of passengers no longer see broadband as a luxury. They see it as a necessity on board. We're finding that over 80% of passengers are saying now, we are willing to pay for decent connectivity. The reason why this world is actually being enabled today is because there's new technology. The new generation of satellites going up now is a step change. And that step change is offering the capacity, the throughput, the variables that you need to succeed. You need continuous coverage. You need that coverage to be consistent. You need it to be high. And you need it also to be of the quality that allows you to have an aeroplane engaging in higher broadband activities without the buffering and the dropouts. And everything is being digitized. When you bring those together, you are now actually seeing for the first time the opportunity to capitalize and monetize, and I'll call them a consumer, not a passenger, a consumer. So what does this mean? By 2035, around $4 per passenger could be added through broadband-enabled ancillary revenue. And in the middle, in a 10-year window, we think that could move around to the $260 per passenger across 4 categories. And the 4 categories we've looked at are broadband revenue on board, e-commerce capability, advertising, and then premium content. There will be a tiered access for some time on broadband revenue. It's a very formative stage right now. On the e-commerce side, we've looked at potentially passengers purchasing things like either attractive items on board that can be shipped back to their destination at home or to their destination at the hotel or their holiday destination. Also, late inventory, other items that the airlines can use if they have the right partners and content on board. The premium that I mentioned before, there's a range of premium opportunities, as is advertising. Those 4 areas consolidate underneath them some of the activities that we've been seeing in the marketplace and potentially consolidating up. One of the most interesting areas we looked at is the split between low-cost carriers and full-service carriers. Around 63%, and it varies, but you could almost say a 60-40 split of our total revenue we forecast coming from some of the full-service carriers. On a long-haul route, you have that capability to have someone engage longer potentially. But one very important difference as well is the hunger from low-cost carriers is extremely strong and generally quite sophisticated. The low-cost carriers started their days having to be a low-cost carriers. So what we find is that a lot of the low-cost carriers are very well placed to develop this opportunity because they are focused on what else can we actually extract. So when we look at this model globally, the revenue split by different regions comes out as follows. Some of this is driven by the passenger numbers, but what we've also modeled are some of the socioeconomic variables that vary between countries. So, for example, the per capita income, also the split between business travel, leisure travel. There are lots and lots of assumptions. But if you consider that over half of IATA's forecast traffic by 2035 of 7.2, it's around 3+ billion, is scheduled to come from Asia, we're estimating around 10 billion, about a third basically of the total figure, will be generated from Asia. Europe, Russia, so as you go through that block, around 8.2 billion, just over 8. Now, North America and Europe are actually almost line ball. And then Latin America, Middle East, and Africa are at the left of the curve. In North America, in a 10-year window, that could be around a $4 billion opportunity, capitalizing fully to around 7.6. The North American average spend is the highest out of that $4. $5.88 is what we attribute the North American average spend to be. So as a market, North America stands to be quite a significant marketplace. So in bringing all of that together, the ultimate winners in this space will be those airlines in the first instance that can actually embrace some of the areas. As those components come together, more will come in behind them, and some of the barriers actually are more around things like licensing or how content will occur. But very importantly, the same players that are trying to resolve those are talking to each other to see how they can capitalize on these opportunities. So to basically close out, we think the opportunity is real. We think that there are steps that both airline partners can take today. And very, very importantly, when this mindset of a consumer being locked in that cabin is actually tackled, then we believe you unlock the potential and then see the consumer as a consumer instead of just a passenger. The only certainty about this area right now is that it's in a state of fluidness, but we believe it will start to stabilize. So anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate everybody your time.